Hey managers, right, today I'm going to show you exactly how to structure and conduct a performance review stroke appraisal. This structure will fit into your organisation's frameworks, documentation, which most of it is online these days, I know, and the processes involved. This is a simple step-by-step approach that will give you the confidence and the competence so you and your team members will find the whole process enjoyable and very, very worthwhile. Plus, we may see the tennis racket again. Now, if you you wonder why I'm waving a tennis racket about, you do need to see my last video on why we do performance reviews and appraisals. The two videos go hand in hand. So we've got a very simple structure for you. It's a 9-part process. The planning, the pre-appraisal conversation, the setting, opening the appraisal, discussing the key points, reviewing and setting objectives, feedback both ways. It's the bit that all managers look forward to, and developing a way forward. And yeah, then obviously closing the appraisal stroke review. So the first part is obviously the planning. You need to make sure you've got your notes from the year. Don't just turn up 10 minutes beforehand and thinking, gosh, what shall I talk about? You should be collecting notes and information about the person's performance, conduct, and how they've worked over the 6 months or the 12 months, whichever period of time you're doing the review over. Make sure you've got notes on one-to-ones, feedback from other managers, perhaps clients or other team members. Do your research. Make sure you put the effort into this bit, because then the whole process will go very, very well. What questions would you like to ask them? What would you like to find out about them? What is it that you don't know about them? Perhaps time to have some more open conversations. Any objectives and goals that you think they've achieved and things that you feel they should be working on in the future. And yeah, now if your company does a review of competencies or values, make sure you've got examples of how you'd score them if you've got a scoring matrix. People often get put off by scoring matrices on appraisals and reviews, but don't. As long as you've got well thought out examples, it's not going to be too difficult to deal with. Yeah, and has the process changed? HR always constantly changing these processes, and rightly so, to make sure they're up to date and they're fit for purpose. So just make sure you understand exactly how it works before you start. Now this is a part of the appraisal process that doesn't often happen. It's what I call the pre-appraisal conversation. Really important, just sit down, perhaps your team or individuals, and have a discussion with them. If you haven't done reviews with them before, what are their thoughts on them? What are their experiences from other companies and other managers? And if they're particularly negative, you need to explain how you're going to run it, that it is going to be positive and it is a way of stepping up and looking forward and not sort of complaining and moaning about what's happened in the past. Your approach to this is really important. Explain how the whole process works. Talk about there again, if your company does do a review on competencies and values, make sure that they come prepared with examples and understand how it works. Ask them what's gone well, what have they found challenging. Perhaps get them to do a SWOT report on themselves. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. That's a nice way to get people to think about themselves so they turn up and have something to talk about. The biggest challenge with appraisals and reviews is getting people to open up and talk to them. So by having the pre-appraisal conversation, you're giving them some things to think about that you're expecting them to come to the review with, so they can talk about them. It may be a short presentation. It may be an overview of projects or new responsibilities. Now remember, it's their review. All you're doing is giving them the opportunity to prepare well for it. The next part is the setting. Obviously, yeah, we don't want to rush. There's nothing worse than sitting in a review and thinking, gosh, we're going to run out of time. So if you think it's going to take an hour and a half, book 2 hours. If you think it's going to be a lot longer, book longer. If you feel it's going to be really short, fine, but don't rush things. And also think about the time of day. Now, there will be sometimes that we'll be doing reviews that could be quite emotional. There may be some subjects that you've got to talk about that perhaps aren't particularly comfortable. And that team member may sort of get emotional. So you may like to have those types of reviews at the end of the day, so that person doesn't have to go back into the working environment. Do you do it in the business, in a meeting room, or can you do it off-site? Perhaps a cafe, if appropriate. But if you do it for one, you've got to do it for all. You've just got to sit and think about what type of culture, what type of environment am I trying to create for reviews. Now, naturally, there again, if it's going to be a very emotional one, you're not going to do it in a cafe. Just think it through before you go into it, and think about a suitable setting. And if possible, try not to do it on Zoom or Teams. I know that may not be possible because obviously remote managing, hybrid teams and everything else, but try and do it face to face. Put the effort in to make them face to face. People appreciate you for it. Okay, the fourth part is opening the appraisal. Explain the process again. Have they done their planning? Just check. And perhaps if they haven't and they sort of turn up and not really interested, I'd say, well, should we leave this for another day then? Make sure that they are contributing. Remind them it's their review, it's their appraisal. Have they got any questions? And your first statement should be along the lines of, thank you for your time. I'm just going to do a short review of the process. And if there's any questions before we get going, please ask. And then just have a very comfortable question to ask them. Okay, so what do you feel's gone well this year or over the last 6 months? Just have a very simple and comfortable question to get them talking, to give them some confidence. Some people don't particularly find these easy situations to deal with, and you're there to facilitate the process and make them feel comfortable. So section 5 is discussing the key points about what has happened over the period that we're reviewing. Now, as I said, some organisations will ask you to score and measure people against the company's values and competencies, in which case make sure you've got some good examples. And in the pre-review conversation, you should have asked them to do the same. So get them talking. Where do they see themselves? And if they feel that they're a 5 and you think they're only a 3, you've got to have a conversation. But make sure you base it around good factual examples. It's a form of feedback that you need to deal with. Okay. Think about achievements and targets that they've hit or haven't hit. What has happened? This is a real key discussion on the key points. What have they enjoyed? What have they not enjoyed? What have they learnt? New experiences, responsibilities they've had to take on. Previous year goal setting, we'll talk a bit more about that at the moment, in a moment, but normally we would look at what we've done in the past before setting new goals for the future. Feedbacks from clients or other parts of the business. There again, this is all information that you should have collected. Get your team members, as I said, to prepare for this. So there's no hidden surprises. They know you're going to ask these questions because I want them to contribute. So once we've done discussing the key points of what has happened in the past, we need to sort of review and set objectives. So is there any other objectives that we need to review, but then setting new objectives? And for this, I dare say most organisations use the good old traditional SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timed, which is fine. But whatever method you do of setting objectives, make sure that they know what they need to do and how they're going to start achieving these objectives. So you may like to say to them, okay, there's your objectives. Why don't you go and have a think about them for a week? And then you come back to me with what your plan's going to be and what your first steps need to be. Too often, as managers, we set people objectives, go on, off you go and sort them out. And they don't really know where to start. And that's a complete waste of time. Also under objective setting, that comes development and the plan for the future. And this is really important. What will their job look like in the next 2 years or next 6 months or 18 months? Things are moving very quickly. What new skills, what new learning do they feel that they need? And this can be a really interesting conversation about how they see the future. How do they see their job, their career? What new responsibilities do you need them to take on? What new responsibilities would they like to take on? Sometimes we've just got to move forward to stand still in terms of our skills and knowledge and experiences. And yeah, we've also talked about this on other videos as well. When we are setting objectives, don't always think they've just got to be work objectives. Sometimes you like to get them to set some personal objectives. It may be their work they've been doing and doing very well for a number of years. So don't force too much on certain people if they're comfortable enjoying what they do. Still have the conversation about the future, but you may like to, instead of always setting lots of work objectives, sometimes look at personal objectives, things they want to do in their own lives, and you just need to make sure that you show an interest in that. So it's great to see that you're still with us, and for that we've got a free download in the link box below, and this is all about helping you to manage your personal development as a manager, but also it will be of a lot of interest for your team members. So the 7th step is feedback. Both ways, yeah? And yeah, this is where my tennis racket comes into play. And the saying is, that I use on a lot of my videos, is you wouldn't coach a tennis player once a year, would you? So don't leave all your feedback to review and appraisal time. It just makes no sense. We should be doing it all year round. This is just to review the feedback that perhaps you've given them over the year and to discuss about their progression in certain areas, which is fine. But obviously we're doing feedback all the way through this process. So yeah, and it's a good opportunity for you to get feedback on you. What do they think of you as a manager? And you may feel that they're just going to go silent on you. So ask some better questions. Do they feel that they get enough information from you? Do they feel that you give them enough support, enough feedback? How well do they think we'll work as a team? Have some other questions to get the conversation going. Really important. And there may be some other things you'd like to know. I'd like to know a bit more about their aspirations. And so this is an opportunity for them to give you feedback on how they see things. What do they think of their job? What do they think of their career? What do they think of the business? What do they think of aspirations and opportunities? These are really good questions for you to find out because you've got to succession manage your team and decide who's going to be with you in the next 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, and who's more likely wanting to move off elsewhere. So feedback works both ways here and is really important. Plus, as I said, who's the best person to tell you if you're a good manager? Quite often at this stage, a lot of managers go, right, I think that's it then. Thank you very much, goodbye. And those team member sort of sits there and goes, yeah, and? Because I think it's really important that section 8 is, developing a way forward. So what? What's going to happen now? This is all great, filling out these bits of documents, keeping HR happy, but what does it actually amount to? Now, this is a contract between you and the team member. Yeah. So whatever you agree in the review, that's for you to now to manage and make happen. So there may be some action points for you to take away and obviously for objectives for them to take away, but plan a way forward. When will you review the appraisal? When will you review their objectives? How are you going to back this up with one-to-ones and coaching if you're not already doing this? How are you going to support and guide them through the rest of the year? How are you going to make sure that they feel comfortable in coming to you during the year and asking for support and giving you feedback? So it really is important that you develop a way forward. What next? This is a real key area that often, managers fall down on when it comes to, doing these reviews. So the last thing is to close the appraisal. There again, if there's any process that needs to happen after this, you will explain that. And this should be a forward-thinking, positive exercise. Thank them for their time. Hopefully we've discussed some good new learnings, experiences and opportunities. Just summarise it. You look forward to working with them in the future on these areas. So there we are, the 9-step approach. Please put it into practice. And also, if you haven't seen my video on why we have performance reviews, these two videos go hand in hand with each other. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Any questions on this, please get in contact. Drop me a note. I promise I'll reply.